Welcome to the Why We Started podcast, the show that gives business owners a platform to share the real story behind their brand. I'm your host, Vanessa Grace, and each week we dive into the why behind the business. Whether it started from a passion, a problem, or a random what if moment, this is where we explore what makes your business different from anyone else in your industry. Because behind every business, there's a story worth sharing. Welcome back to the Why We Started podcast. I'm your host, Vanessa Grace, and today's guest is Aimee Holder. She is a creative force behind Color Sanctuary. She's a color-obsessed stylist, a New York Fashion Week artist, and someone who has turned her healing journey into a safe, empowering space for her clients. From sobriety to bold transformations, her story is powerful, real, and full of heart, and I'm excited for you guys to dive in. So welcome, Aimee.
Hey, I'm so excited to be here. I've been looking forward to this.
Good, I'm glad. So let's start from the beginning. Tell us a little bit about your story and how you even got into the beauty industry in the first place.
So, I am definitely not your typical, I dreamt of being a hairdresser since I was a kid hairdresser. I honestly, my life was a lot different when I was young. I was in a competitive dance for most of my childhood and teenage years. And really, I guess that's where my love of creativity started and obviously makeup, but it was never a career choice. It wasn't until I got sober at the end of 2011. I know we're gonna take a deeper dive into that later. But I got sober at the end of 2011, and I moved to Southern Louisiana at the beginning of 2012. I was waiting tables, which is what I did, and I had a friend of mine tell me, she was like, you should go to beauty school. I was doing my hair every different color you could imagine at that point in time. I was doing other people's hair. Like, I had no idea what I was doing. And yes, I was using box color, but I had no idea what I was doing. I just knew that I liked the creativity and I liked the fact that I could show personality just with my hair. So I started cosmetology as kind of a backup plan. It was all right, well, I can do this until I figure out what I want to do with my life. And by the time I got to the color portion of cosmetology school, I was hooked. I fell in love. Sometimes it just happens that way. We trip over it and we fall into it. And that's exactly what I did with the beauty industry. Here I am 13 years later, and I've got a laundry list of things that I have done since then, and it's been an amazing journey.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I've obviously known you when you were here in Jacksonville,
Right.
but you have definitely grown since then. And I feel like you came from just being like Hair by Aimee to now you are Color Sanctuary. So tell me a little bit more about that name and what's the mission behind that?
So like you said, you knew me when I still lived at the beaches of Jacksonville, and I actually grew up here in Asheville, North Carolina. This is home. And last summer, really last spring, I made the decision it was time to move home. The mountains used to hold a lot of trauma for me. And it was trauma that for a long time I ran from. Again, I mentioned I moved away in 2012. I didn't move back home until 2024. But then I had a rather nasty into my marriage the end of 2022, and I chose to get better instead of bitter, and I went on a healing journey, which you, Vanessa, are very familiar with. And every time I would come home to visit, it got harder and harder to leave. This place became my sanctuary. It became my comfort place again. My daddy always said there's healing powers in these mountains, and he was right. And I knew it was time for me to move home. God was pushing me home in all different avenues. It was just everything was just lining up to come back to Asheville. And so with that, I knew it was time to rebrand because, like you said, for years before that, I was simply cut and dry hair by Amy Nicole. I knew that I needed something that was a little more personal. And again, we're going to kick back to Sanctuary. And also, I know it's kind of hard to see now, but I am completely covered in tattoos. I'm a very colorful person, from everything from my skin to my clothes to my hair to my personality. Vanessa can vouch I am a huge personality, typically. Um, And colors everywhere. Color is in everything that I do that makes me the happiest. And it just made sense to me to combine those two things, to explain, all in 3 words, that you can come here and you can get color, but you can also come here and you can have somewhere where you can be truly comfortable. Every single person that sits in my chair, I want them to know that they're safe and that they're valued, and that no matter what happens in that chair, it's kind of like Vegas. I don't leave that chair. So it just made sense to me that the color sanctuary was it for me.
No, I think that's super powerful. Honestly, I had no idea about the sanctuary part. I mean, the fact that you are a color girl in general, like I feel like you as a hairstylist has been the like color is just what you do. I mean, you do other parts of hairstyling, but like there's things that every time I sat in your chair, I feel like felt like I learned more about the skills that you know just based on talking to you. And I'm like, oh my gosh, she knows how to
Right.
do this too. Just because I felt like color was your vibe in general, that I like learned more and more about all the different kinds of services that you provide. So what I mean, let's go into that a little bit. What is like all the services that you do provide?
So obviously we know I do color, everything from natural color to the most unnatural of colors. But I also am a blonding specialist as well, which I won't go down a rabbit hole too much, but I personally as a hairdresser believe that being a vivid specialist and being a blonde specialist go hand in hand, because you can't get clean vivids without understanding the color wheel and understanding how to make someone blonde and cleanly blonde. And so I do offer anything from bleaching services, anywhere from a lived in balayage to a full bleach out the entire head. I also offer hair cutting services. I am barbershop trained. I am not a licensed barber. I need to specify that. I am a licensed cosmetologist. However, I have been trained by some phenomenal barbers in 2 different states, and I enjoy my clipper cuts. I will also say, kind of going off of that, I do non-binary pricing. I charge for the haircut. I do not charge for the person that sits in my chair. So I have plenty of female clientele that have short clipper cuts. They're going to pay a clipper cut price. I have plenty of men that have long shoulder length or longer hair. They pay a scissor cut price. I went into non-binary pricing quite a few years ago, more so because I just thought it was unfair that somebody would have to pay for a service just because of who they were as a person, not because of the service that was actually being done for them.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I do want to get that out there as well. But I also offer brow lamination and tinting and brow waxing, right? And I will hopefully within the next 6 months also be offering eyelash extension services.
Ooh, very nice.
Yes, we are working on getting us certified. I also offer all sorts of keratin and smoothing treatments. Those are by client, individual, like, apologize, depending completely and totally on the hair. I focus more on the health of the hair than I do anything else. And so I am also that hairdresser that if you sit down and want a chemical, but I don't think that your hair's strong enough, we're going to sit and talk about a healing regimen first. So I offer all sorts of different healing regimens that can be done at home to help strengthen the hair and to be able to do rebonding services in the salon as well.
Yeah, that's really cool. I like
Yeah.
the fact that you kind of, with certain things, like certain services, kind of go by the person rather than just the
Right.
overall, which
Right.
makes you a little bit more specialized in that kind of way, which is kind of
Right.
cool.
I also do weddings and formal events.
Formal
Lots of
events.
wedding, yes, weddings and formal events.
Are you familiar with updos and stuff?
Oh, incredibly familiar with updos. Yeah. Yeah, I have done weddings from New Orleans to Baton Rouge to Florida, up here to North Carolina. I enjoy it. I thrive on that chaos.
Hmm.
I think that's why New York Fashion Week was such a fit, because you've got a certain amount of time to do a certain amount of heads, and they have to be done because you have a time schedule that you have to adhere to. And I enjoy it. Not to mention, most people are incredibly happy on those days. So I offer both bridal and groom packages as well when it comes to wedding stuff. You'd be surprised the amount of men that want them and their groomsmen to be touched up and their beards touched up and just some lineups the
Yes,
day of. Yeah,
of
it's really
course.
cool. Yeah, it's really cool. The guys are usually a whole lot of fun. They're hilarious, and let's face it, they usually tip well when it comes to having that done on their wedding day and then extra to go above and beyond for their soon to be wife as well. So yeah, it's cool.
That's really awesome. And obviously, like,
Yeah.
I know you're licensed in cosmetology, but you stick with hair, right? Like, you wouldn't do weddings for makeup as well, right?
I actually do weddings for makeup. I do them predominantly for hair, but if makeup is needed, then I can do makeup. I've got a full makeup kit.
But you did touch base a little bit, and I wanted to talk on it because it just makes you even more unique as a hairstylist. Let's talk about New York Fashion Week because you mentioned that you're like, just a side note, I am also a New York Fashion Week artist. So,
Just
how,
slide
how
that
did
in there.
that happen? And like, what was your experience with that?
So it's wild, okay? Because let's face it, it was at that point in time, it was 2023, the end of 2023, and we all know we get spams in our Instagram and our Facebook, text messages, phone calls. We get spam all over the place, right? So I woke up one morning to a message on Instagram from someone out of Missouri, mind you. I was still in Jacksonville Beach, Florida, reaching out to me, telling me that he had gotten my name from a former client of his that was a current client of mine and had looked over my work and loved my work and wanted to offer me a spot on his team for New York Fashion Week. And he name dropped this client. And so then I go and I look at my text messages, getting ready to text her. And she had texted me and said, listen, you're going to receive an Instagram message from my former hairdresser. It is not a scam. She, she knew. Okay.
Yeah,
She
she
knew
read your
that
mind
that
right
was,
there.
oh yeah, she 100% knew. I already had this message from her. And so I called her and I said, explain this to me. And she told me, she said, well, you need to talk to Jesse first. Okay, fine. So I messaged him back and it was wild because it happened on October the 25th, 2023. It was when I got that invite. It was 3 days after the year anniversary of me leaving my ex-husband, which was one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life. And I needed something. I was in a pretty dark place. There was a lot of things that had completely and totally changed in my world. And it was it was like something in me completely shifted. I knew that this was a once in a lifetime opportunity. I knew this was something that I was never going to get again. So we fast forward to February of 2024. Let's pause. January of 2024. I had yet to attend New York Fashion Week. I had signed on. I had done all the things. I was prepping. I was ready. I had bought all the clothes because I didn't have winter clothes left. I hadn't lived somewhere where it was cold in 10, 11 years at that point. January of 2024, I got a phone call asking me if I would be interested in leading my own team of hairdressers the following season, September of 2024. And yeah, I did basically exactly that.
Yeah, like the
Right. Like, but I can't squeal while I'm on the phone
oh,
with
of course,
them
yeah, you have
because,
to stay very professional.
but
Yeah.
I'm literally pacing around my apartment, getting ready to lose it, right? Lose my mind. So I said, I need a couple of days to stew on this and to make sure, because it's a lot. It is a lot. Of course, I said yes. So of course, I said yes. So by the time I actually attended my first fashion weekend work, I was already contracted as a lead for the following season, and I already had 16 members contracted with me before I ever even attended the very first time. And then by the time I went back in September of last year, I not only had one team, I had two teams of hairdressers. I had 40 total hairdressers on my teams, and then I also had two assistants. So I was overseeing 42 hairdressers for New York Fashion Week in September of 2024, which I loved even more. All the chaos, being pulled 50 different directions, having all the things. It was a lot, but again, I loved it.
Mhm.
Like most hairdressers in this world, I have ADHD. We all do. Okay. I really think that's what makes us good hairdressers is the worse that we have ADHD, the better hairdressers we are. And I always joke and say that my ADHD superpower is when I get into a high chaos situation, I almost tunnel vision and I get hyper focused. So when I am in a color correction, especially, or when I'm backstage at New York Fashion Week, or when I am in a wedding and we've got 30 minutes and the bride just might have been a little bit too drunk and she fell asleep. And listen, New Orleans, okay? And she fell asleep and I've got to redo half of her head. Like, no matter what it is, it's like I kind of hone in and then I'm there and it gets done somehow, some way. And I love it because at the end I can take a step back, maybe cry a little because that's who I am as a human and go, I survived it. I did it. It's fine. It's all good. It was actually New York Fashion Week was a huge drive into me moving home. I moved home so I could have a slower, quieter, more peaceful way of life. I closed my salon loft that I had had for 2.5 years. Changed my entire life to come home so that I could focus more on editorial work and Fashion Week. Of course, then I moved home basically August 1st, and then September 27th, the apocalypse hit in Western North Carolina,
Yeah.
and then I had a very sick family member. And life has kind of put that on pause for the moment, but things are starting to level out again. So I have a few skillets in the fire when it comes to editorial stuff that I'm working on. So I'm really excited about that. It's a cool age to be alive in the beauty industry and in the technological world that we live in right now. And to see how those two things are starting to mesh. It's really cool. So I've got some things that are in my sights that I'm looking forward to.
That's awesome. Do you feel like you'll ever go back to New York Fashion Week?
Maybe. We'll see.
If anything, it was just a good experience that helped
Right.
you become a better leader.
Right. If nothing else, yes, it definitely taught me a lot about myself as an individual and also as a leader and as an educator because there was a lot of educating that went into that, and educating is a passion of mine. It's what I call my quote unquote retirement plan
Mhm.
because hairdressers, we don't have 401ks. So my retirement plan is education, and it definitely did teach me a lot in a lot of different avenues, but it may have run its course and it may just be something that's really cool on my resume. So something I can say I did, which not a lot of hairdressers can.
No, absolutely. No, not a lot of
Right.
people can. And honestly, too, is kind of interesting because I know that not only were you a stylist at New York Fashion Week, but you, like you said, you built a team that was of 40 different stylists, which is super impressive. Because correct me if I'm wrong, like you made that list, like you selected the people that were on there, and I don't believe they're all in the same area, too, right?
They're from all over the country,
Okay.
literally all the way from coast to coast. From the furthest west that you can get in the San Francisco Bay of California, to the coast of New Hampshire and Florida. If memory serves me correctly, I actually pulled 42 hairdressers from 13 different states,
Wow, that's so impressive.
most of which I had no.
Yeah, you didn't meet half the people that you worked with until the day they're like, "By the way, we're in New York together."
Yep, until we showed up in New York City together that week. Yep. We had Zoom meetings, but as far as meeting in person, most of them, I had no idea who they were. Yeah.
That's really, really cool. And
Yeah.
I love that as now that's, like, kind of crafted your story, but, what do you feel like being in New York Fashion Week and now being back home, where do you feel like brings you to your being a hairstylist back home? What brings back to your why of why you're still being a hairstylist here, and what really brings you back home to being a part of Color Sanctuary?
So there are so many different facets of my industry that the beauty is it feeds my ADHD. It does. I get bored in this section. Guess what? I can go hang out over here for a little while. or I can go hang out over here for a little while. I can see what this is all about. Kicking back to education, I am actually, with any luck, by the end of the year, will be a licensed cosmetology educator for the state of North Carolina. I would like to. I think that my next big step in my industry is going to be teaching. So the reality is when I was young, I was really hard on my body, and being in this industry isn't easy on the body either. I mean,
Mhm.
you as also a massage therapist, you know the strains of being on your feet all day and having to exert and do and warp the body, and you being my personal massage therapist for like a year and a half, you know you know how hard it is on the body. I want to be in this industry for as long as I possibly can. I want to stay behind the chair for as long as I can, but I think it's time for me to step out from behind the chair full time. It's going to be a process. It's going to take a while. It's probably not going to be for another year or so.
Right.
But I think that the next step is for me to step out from behind the chair full time and dive deeper into education so that I can continue to explore other avenues as well, as far as editorial is concerned. This isn't something that I'll ever give up. I will, if I could choose my way to go, it would either be behind the chair or behind my desk in a classroom. For once in my life, I found what helps make me me. Being able to give back to people the way that I can, just by helping give them a little more confidence, just by helping them love their hair again. It's really the main reason that I continue to do what I do. I wasn't a very good person for a very long time when I was younger. When I was living in active addiction, by the way, I'm a little over 13 and a half years clean and sober drug addiction.
That's amazing.
It's got a stigma, and for a long time I let that stigma bother me, but I don't anymore. I'm very much so sober out loud.
Loud and proud.
Right. Because you never know. You
Right.
never know whose life you're going to touch. You never know who else you might be able to give the courage to live life out loud.
And also just
Continue.
give that, like, kinda comfort, You were
Right,
saying earlier how that you want your chair to be that safe space, that sanctuary for people. So,
right.
if you're loud and proud about your sobriety, I feel like that also kinda gives them that, like, "Oh my gosh, like, I feel comfortable being in Amy's chair because I'm also, like, dealing with something like that or have a family member dealing with that," and that be kind of like another, like, um
Icebreaker.
yeah, exactly, or, like, your squad.
Right, right, right. You know, I I'm very transparent with people when it comes to every aspect of life, especially my clients that sit in my chair. I'm transparent with you about your hair. You know that firsthand, Vanessa. I am transparent with people about who I am as a person. Somebody, well, I hope it doesn't offend you. Honey, I am the last person in the world to judge anyone at all. The amount of things that I have seen and done in my 38, almost 39 years. I know a lot of people that are 60 and plus that have never. And good. I'm glad because most of the stuff that I have seen that they haven't isn't good. For a lot of years, when my mom would get a phone call from a number that wasn't in her phone, she'd be terrified that it was a phone call that I was dead or in a hospital somewhere. I've hurt people that I loved. I've lied, I've cheated, I've stolen. Those are all a version of me that lost myself to a feel good moment because I was too scared to do the work to heal. I had a lot of trauma growing up. Who doesn't these days, right? But I did. I had a lot of emotional trauma growing up. And my dad, God rest his soul, Friday, 2 days from now, will make 25 years since he died. I was 13. And emotionally, I was stunted at that age for a long time. Because again, that I think I had hit my limit when it came to trauma. So when I graduated high school and I went to traditional 4 year college, only lasted for a year. I started down a really hard road with drugs because I realized that there was an escape. I realized that there was a comfort in being able to silence the craziness that was going on. And of course, like anything else, I didn't start out wanting to be an addict. I didn't start out wanting to hurt the people that I loved and put the people that I loved through the things that I did. But it's a trickle effect. You know, you take this pill and then you take the same dosage for a little while. Well, what happens? They got to up your dosage because your body gets used to it. It's the exact same thing when it comes to an addict. Doesn't matter if it's pills, alcohol, sugar, it doesn't matter what it is. Addiction's addiction.
Right.
And I tried getting sober a few different times, but I was always doing it for someone else. So it never stuck. And then I had a aha moment behind the bars of a cell. I was arrested for failure to comply with an out of state citation. It was an out of state speeding ticket I didn't pay. It wasn't anything serious. It was just I hadn't paid it and it had been a year and a half and I had a couple of failure to appears. Well, I had an aha moment there because when the police impounded my car, if they had searched it, I'd be in prison still to this day. And by the grace of God Himself, while I was in there for 3 days, they didn't search my car. So when I got out, got rid of it, I never touched it again.
Oh my God.
And I won't. I knew my luck had run out. I knew in that moment, there was no, the next time I wasn't going to be so lucky. I knew that. And I also knew that if I was going to stay sober, I had to get the hell out of Dodge. Pardon my language. I had to. This is where I grew up. This is where all of that old familiar was, but it's also where all of my old familiar trauma that I had not healed from was. And I was in this same vicious circle. And, you know, definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. And that's what I was doing. And I had to get out of here. So opportunity presented itself for me to move to Southern Louisiana, to the swamps, literally. And I did. And I was there for the better part of a decade. And I loved it. Wound up moving to Jacksonville Beach, Florida, the end of 2020. Technically Atlantic Beach, but the beaches.
Yeah.
And it just, even through all the craziness that still happened through all of those years of sobriety, the healing that just kept happening and kept happening. You know, I tell people like I moved away, I dealt with my demons, I healed from the things that I needed to heal from, and it was time to come home. It was time to come home to the people that love me. It was time to come home to a support network of people that I am blessed beyond measure to still have in my corner. And I have also decided that, you know, yeah, when I tell people that I'm in recovery, doesn't matter to some people how long I've been in recovery. Every once in a while, I still get somebody that I can watch their face shift. I can watch their opinion of me change. And that used to bother me. That used to bother me like crazy. But nowadays,
Mhm.
I prefer it that way because that shows me the energy that I don't need to have around me professionally or personally. And those boundaries are healthy and necessary to maintain sobriety.
Wow.
So yeah,
That's
I
crazy.
some people don't understand, and you know what? I'm thankful for them that they don't understand because that means that they've never had to live through it or never had a family member that they've had to watch live through it.
That's amazing. So first of all, just to be 13 years sober, and then the fact that you came from such a dark place, had that moment where technically nothing was wrong, but you kind of felt that there needed to be a
Mhm.
change. And honestly, it was better for you. The fact that like you have grown so much since then. And like I'm still so amazed from you of how much you've grown, even the few years I've known you. But like when to say that sobriety plays a whole role in your business, it's 100% true.
It's my part of my why.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I get to help other people, but it helps me just as much. On the days that, like Friday, this coming Friday, the 25th, it's going to be a rough day. It always is. Because I still remember very vividly the events of that day. I remember waking up. I remember when he passed. I remember everything that happened after. And he was my best friend. He was my best friend. But I have a massive color project at 9:30 scheduled Friday morning. And for a lot of years, I wouldn't go to work. Even if I waited tables, if I was scheduled, I'd call in sick. I wouldn't go to work on those days, but I make myself get up and go because once I do, and I make myself get out of the bed and get dressed and go and get into it, I'm happy that I did. And it's healthier. It's healthier coping that way than it is just staying in the bed all day. Now, don't get me wrong. Every once in a while, everybody needs a mental health day. Okay.
I agree. I agree.
I have no problem saying that, you know what, today is not the day. I cannot do people. I'm done. I'll be in my bed if you need me. But on the especially hard days, it's easier and better for me mentally to make myself get up and go do it and show up for somebody else. And God usually will always remind me. I've got it better now than I ever thought that I could. I've got things exponentially beyond any possible imagination that I could have ever come up with for how far he's brought me already. And I know he's not done. I always tell people that God and I have an agreement. I'll keep doing the work if he keeps putting the doors in front of me. As long as he just keeps giving me one more opportunity and one more soul to help. I'll keep doing it. I can't stop.
Good. You shouldn't stop. I think it also is very impressive that you came from a place where there was so much trauma and you left it to get to heal, to then feel that draw back into your hometown to continue to be healthy and feeling that meaningfulness of I still got to do what I got to do and I still want to help people to make them look beautiful, but also like you said, you want to do more than just be the person behind the chair. You want to also teach the people how to be hairstylists as well, right?
Right.
So first, I think you should just like really feel that powerfulness of you. Like you have done so much and you are incredible. Feel that because it's absolutely true. And I'm so excited to see what you're about to do because you're talking about how, again, you want to be an educator. I'm curious to know about that a little bit more, if you don't mind. Like, would you feel like you would be more of an educator that's just like virtually, you would be doing it online and there's a course or something? Or is it more like workshops in person? Like, I have a place, they come to me, we do this class together.
So I am actually going to get my educate cosmetology educator license through North Carolina, which means that I can walk into any cosmetology school, be it a mom and pop, a big name brand, or a community college, and teach future hairdressers. There's a few things about the hairdresser world and different things that I feel like should be dead practice. And sorry, not sorry, but there are a lot of things that are very old school mentality when it comes to hairdressers. And I know that I can't change it for everybody, but I do know that if I can put out a few hairdressers that are a little more humble starting out, I will have made a difference in my industry. I will have made a massive difference in my industry. So I actually want to go teach at an actual cosmetology college school. Catch them early, train them right.
No, that's really powerful. I think that's awesome. And
Yeah,
I hope that happens for you.
yeah. It'll happen. It'll happen in his time.
Oh,
My
yeah.
timeline is by the end of the year. He has proven me a lot here recently that my timeline is more of a suggestion.
Mhm.
So yeah.
That's so awesome. Okay,
Yeah.
well, I love that you took the time to talk to us about your story and really got like I felt like I learned even more about you that I didn't even know. So this was such a huge deep dive into Aimee Holder. What is a good way for people to reach you? Maybe if they live in the area, if they want to work with you, or if maybe they're an upcoming hairstylist and maybe they want to like learn from you as well.
So I all of my clients have my cell phone number, so I have zero problem handing that out to people. You just if you're gonna text me your first and last name and let me know that you heard me about my through heard about me through the podcast. Clearly I can't talk. Or my Instagram. My Instagram is I'm sure will be linked somewhere
Yeah.
because it's kind of a lot to spell out. I don't do anything simply. My Instagram or my Gloss Genius website, both of which I'm sure will be linked somewhere in a description somewhere.
Yes, absolutely. We will definitely add all your information in our show
Okay.
notes as well.
Yeah. But definitely always feel free to text me or reach out to me through Instagram. If, some people are more comfortable doing that, it's a little less personal than a cell phone number. But any students, it doesn't matter where you are, it doesn't matter how far away from me you are. If there's anything that I can ever help with, please don't hesitate to reach out. There is no stupid question except for the one that you don't ask.
No, absolutely. I totally feel that. Well, thank you so much again, Aimee, for joining us. You were amazing. Like I said before, all her information and her cell phone apparently is going to be in the show notes. So definitely make sure you connect with her. And also
Mhm.
for those hairstylists or upcoming hairstylists or any educators that are looking for a professor, you should definitely look out for Aimee. She is ready for you. So thank you so much.
Yeah. Bye.